welcome back to another edition of Investor Roundtable here at Equity Guru, where the four of us get to sit around a supposed table and discuss the pros and cons of small cap or big cap or mid cap companies and let you know how we feel about them and whether or not we would invest in them. Today we're focusing on a company called West High Yield Resources. This is a mineral explorer based out of Calgary that's focused on the wonderful mineral of magnesium. It's headed by CEO Frank Marasco Jr., and apparently Chris is just chomping at the bit to say something about this company.
So when your ticker symbol is WHY, you've got to have a page on your investor presentation that says why.
Right.
So West High Yield does not let us down. I had a long conversation with Frank Marasco, who's the longtime boss of this deal. And one of the things that was really interesting to me about it is, sometimes you like looking at the stock chart and you're like, I wonder what this looked like in the 2-year chart. And I wonder what it looked like in the 3. This is one where you can go back, I think, 15 years and, 20 years even. Yeah, like you go back about 18 years. 2006 is when it first began. And not a lot of companies still exist in that length unless they like make it to the top, or most of them just flame out. So if you look at the 1-year chart on West High Yield, it's got a big jump up to 120 late last year, and then it came back down again to where it is today, which is around the 20-cent mark, which makes it, from a short-term point of view, look like a company that's been through it and is now at the end of their lifespan. But if you stretch it out over that 18 years, what you actually find out is you're at the average right now.
Yeah.
This has been a 20-cent company more or less since 2006. I've got a child that isn't as old as this company. And so, you don't say that much about microcaps. So what WHY is a magnesium project. There's a decent amount of magnesium under the ground. They've done a lot of work to get this thing through to the point where it's like on the edge of production. But what's really interesting for magnesium, I think, is it's almost the forgotten mineral, like everything that we do in terms of electronics and everything we do in terms of green energy, everything, our cars, everything future bound requires magnesium, and the magnesium resources are not necessarily in plentiful supply in terms of output on mining operations right now. So one of the things that you often look at with mineral explorers is, are they going to be around in 3 to 6 months? Well, this company's been around for a long time. The CEO has been in charge of it for a long time. The big downside on West High Yield is they haven't really told their story. They've just been quietly doing the work, getting the permits, getting the PEAs, getting that, like everything has just been plop, 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 plop. Just do your job, keep your mouth shut, buy a lot of stock when it's cheap. When it runs, great, warrants come in. When it doesn't run, buy more. And now they're at a place where it seems like both the company and the project, and frankly, magnesium as a sector, are all sort of coming to the fore at the one time, which is probably indicative of the fact that now they're starting to publicly talk about it to guys like us. So for me, this is an interesting, a lot of the companies that try and get you to that point of like, is the train leaving the station right now? Why do I have to invest right now? There's some sort of urgency. For these guys, there hasn't been that urgency for about 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, I think, now.
Yeah,
So at least it's got to be on the watch list.
Yeah, totally. That seems very interesting. Now, Fabi, I know that you're sort of just delving into this company recently. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so I know as much about magnesium as I know about taking magnesium pills. So very, very little. But at the same time, I'm going through their numbers and a few things really jump out. First of all, the fact that they have a known resource and the chart looks like absolute crap to me is like 2 boxes already ticked, right? Right up my alley. And you go through the numbers to see whether they're strong enough. I usually like to see that their NPVs are coming in at, an amount that's quite large compared to their market cap. Their NPV after tax is 1.2 billion it seems. I might be misreading it, but it looks like that. Yeah, that's the right number.
Yep.
And it seems like something else that I look at is how much is the initial capex compared to, you know, the MPU that they're calculating. That comes in and around 350 million or something like that, according to these calculations. So you have all those boxes ticked, right? A very large resource, not well known, right? Company not very well known, but also the actual mineral that, you know, they have is not very well known. It's not sexy, so they're not going to have lots of eyeballs on them. But also the number side of things really line up. So I'm quite impressed, to be honest. I did not expect to see something as advanced as they are right now, compared to a ridiculous market cap of less than 20 million bucks. And so it looks like, you know, that sort of like dead flatlining portion of the nobody's interested, you know, cycle that a lot of these companies go through. That's quite common. And I think this is actually quite interesting. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I like this.
It gets the Fabby stamp of approval. I like that. Personally, for me, the story behind this particular project or this company is all about the magnesium, right? Mining has got a very bad rap over the last few decade or 2 decades, and in some cases rightfully so. There just hasn't been a proper amount of land stewardship that's taking place and consideration of local populations and communities. Not in every case, but it has happened, most notably with the Imperial Mines. But this particular project is something that is the new face of mining, something that brings the ESG element into the process. We do need these elements, absolutely. We do need these minerals. Mining is necessary. But what's very nice about magnesium is it's has a multitude of uses that are incredibly integral to our society and to our green energy transition. Magnesium itself is a vital part of the human body in terms of a chemical compound that's found within you, kind of thing, or a mineral that you can intake. It's involved in most of the processes that your metabolism undertakes and is essential. And so taking supplements in this regard for magnesium is highly beneficial for you in many ways, for autoimmune diseases, getting rid of migraines, all sorts of things. The list is about as long as my arm. Then you have the other uses for magnesium, and this is in like industrial uses. It's done in die casting. It's done in aeronautics and automotive industry because it makes metals lighter. And just that very fact itself reduces consumption in terms of gas and fuel. So you're reducing your carbon footprint there. And then it's also more environmentally friendly as a manufacturing component than most other components that it's up against, I guess you could say. It's also a board, like you can use it in construction, that is flame retardant, mildew resistant, and just everything, right? Much better than the plywood or even normal sort of OSB board that they use at this point in time. Then it's also a factor in making cement, like magnesium cement. This is a high performance concrete that lasts thousands of years under huge amounts of pressures, and it's way more environmentally friendly in the building or in the mixing of it than other types like Portland cement in and of itself. It's pretty fantastic. Magnesium batteries.
Fertilizer either, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's a great fertilizer. Absolutely essential, very environmentally friendly, and works into all growths, you know, whether agricultural, fruits and vegetables, flowers, all sorts of things in that regard. But what I find really interesting is the magnesium batteries. This is a technology that's coming around, making solid state batteries that are we're going to blow lithium ion batteries out of the water. And the technology is getting better and better and closer and closer. These batteries last longer. They don't lose their charge in colder climates, that kind of thing. And they also are more easily disposed of when it's all done and said with. So I like the guys. I think they're very much behind their product. I think they're very much, as Chris said, nose to the grindstone, not really sort of hurrah, hurrah, look at us, look at us. They're just getting the job done. It's a long road to hoe in terms of permitting. It is with any mining project. But honestly, this record ridge that they have going on 10.6, I think, million tons of product that they can pull out of the ground. That's an amazing deposit that we have, and this is only in the early stages of defining it and making an actual assessment for the property. Anyway, just so we can get onto the technical end of things.
Sure.
Vishal, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is quite interesting. I'm just like in the same camp as Fabi there, where magnesium. First thing that came in my mind was magnesium pills, which helps you go to sleep too. By the way, right? I think it's the second most common deficiency in North America after iron. I believe it's magnesium. It might be B12 before that, but it's up there. But yeah, I mean, it's a strategic metal as well. That's something else that I just learned. It's one of the 35 strategic critical, not metals, sorry, but minerals for the U.S. And they're highly dependent on imports of magnesium. So this whole idea, we're seeing with other commodities about creating this domestic supply also applies to magnesium. Chart-wise, Chris talked about it. There was a big pop up to $1.20 in November of 2021. But if you do take a look at the very long term, well, let's go down to the monthlies so you can sort of see the candlesticks a bit better. Yes, the stock has essentially been in this range for, since its inception. And there was just one basically outlier that was a major pop in 2017. But we are pretty close to a major support level, which, going back over a decade has held 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So, if you are looking for, I guess, a bottoming play, would want to maybe look at something like WHY. One thing I find interesting is, if you zoom out here on the current daily chart of magnesium, it is basically a carbon copy of the magnesium prices. This is the weekly chart, but if I go back to the daily, you can see that it's essentially the same structure there. So you guys sort of know I like to also look for things which have fallen and are creating a range or a base where price is just, consolidating, and it's usually a sign that the selling pressure has exhausted and the downtrend is now over. Seeing that sort of similar pattern here with magnesium prices, and you are sort of seeing that here on the short term with WHY, where it's just ranging after a major downtrend. So really just needs a catalyst to change that trend. I would also mark the 31 cent level here just as a near-term resistance level. It would be really bullish if the stock can close above that, medium to long term, and before it gets this major move going. And then when you look at the volume as well, I think the volume is worth talking about because it is actually consistent volume every day, which we can't really say about some other mining or junior stocks. So it looks like people are paying attention to the company. People are paying attention to magnesium as well, and I think our viewers should keep this stock high on their radar and at least look at the magnesium markets.
Yeah, so the charts point to something good as well. That's very interesting. So we have 7,500 Equity Guru bucks each.
Let's change it. Let's make it 10K.
10K? All right. Look at us break the
Go
bank.
on.
10K
Adjusted for
per.
inflation. So.
Absolutely, adjusting for inflation. So, Chris, since you started out this whole thing, where are you at in terms of investment?
Well, so one important thing I think needs to be added in here is there's gold in them there hills.
Right, yeah.
There's 200K metric tons that they think is grading out at about 2.5 parts per million for a total of over 18,000 ounces, about $30 million worth of value. So that doesn't suck. Also, there's an element of this deal that we haven't really talked about. If you go through the corporate presentation, there is as much, if not more, information in that presentation about what happens next. They think that they'll be permit ready by the end of this year. They think there'll be production in 2023. But then comes the interesting part for these guys, and that is what you do with the magnesium. So they've already got an LOI takeout deal for an end user to take a whole bunch of magnesium off their hands. I think that was something to do with the big bump at the end of last year. They've also got the plan is to put together a plant that will turn it into magnesium oxide, which is where you start getting the potential for end use for wallboard and cement and things like that. So I would recommend that everybody go through the demonstration plant. the work plan that they've got, like the elements of the magnesium market. There's a whole bunch of stuff here that shows me that the end game for them isn't getting shovels in the ground and selling an ingot. It's what are you going to do with that ingot that then adds a whole bunch of value to the ore? Rather than letting someone else do that work, this group looks like they want to do it themselves and get the most extracted value out of that mine that they possibly can. So there's lots of this that sort of it presents itself as your average microcap or exploration deal, but there's so much more happening here that really points to me like this is a big boy play.
Yeah.
They've been quietly gathering share by share for some time. I think this is the time to start really looking at it. Obviously, the chart is at a low over the last year, but if you take out the outliers, which is late last year and early this year, you can go stretch back years and find this stock pretty much at the same place as it is until now. So I think this is where you actually get it for value. You don't have to wait 3 years like people 3 years ago did. You can just throw your money in here and expect that there's going to be news to this thing within the next few weeks and months. I would think that if you're going to go in, you go all in on something this cheap. So I'm saying 10K of the 10K tomorrow morning. You jump in there, you buy it up. You probably move the stock about 15% in doing so. But I think this is a good time to get your grab back.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a full poll. There we go. Okay, so Fabi, how do you feel about it?
Well, if I can manage to front run Chris's trades, and
Right.
maybe maybe I would do, I think, let's call it 4K at 23 cents if I can get it.
Okay.
That's a big if. Then if we can push the price up to like 30 and see it break,
Yeah.
then I deploy maybe another 2 or 3K after that. But obviously, that would happen because Chris would drive the price up that high.
The
Theoretically.
investor always comes in either just ahead or well behind me.
There you go.
Nice. I like where these guys are at. They've got some new information coming out soon with an adjusted PEA. And so there's going to be good news in that. And they're pushing the process or the permitting process through. They're nose to the grindstone, not a lot of fanfare. This is business, business, business. So you know what? I typically am a very cheap man. I'm actually going to throw the whole wad in. Look at me go.
Look at you, cheapie.
Yeah, I know. Finally opening up the purse strings. There we go. 10 grand for me. How about you, Vishal?
I'm following Fabi's lead there as well. I think I'm going to be deploying 5K here at this price point, and then I'm going to hold on to the other 5K and deploy it either if we get a break above that 30-cent zone, which I talked about earlier, or if we do manage to continue to drop a bit lower, I can add a bit more when we drop a bit lower there. So 5K right now. I do find the whole magnesium space quite interesting. Their project is quite advanced as well. Catalyst is upcoming, so I think I'd rather get some skin in the game now rather than wait for a technical breakout.
Well, there you go. A little bit split there, but not a bad split. There's a fair amount of investment on all fronts.
It's either like look and see with a
Yep.
view to take it or it's like get in early and roll the dice.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a perfect situation for a mineral explorer to be in. Shortly
Absolutely.
before news about maybe permits and production.
Exactly. Again, this is WHY Resources or West High Yield Resources. They're based out of Calgary, again, trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the Venture Exchange, I should say, under the symbol WY. Geez, I can speak. WHY. It's simple. Why didn't I remember that?
I know
So
it.
if you're interested, you can check them out online at whyresources, all one word, .com. That's where they happen to be, if I remember correctly. And we'll see you next time because this is just, we don't want to keep you here forever. All right.
You got things to do.
Yeah, place to go, people to see. Take care. Oh, yeah, do due diligence.